Thanks all. And just to echo Dina, thank you for joining us this evening. Um, so the Middle States Self-Study asks us to assess our institution across 7 standards of accreditation, which we've listed here for you. Under each of these standards is a set of 4 to 9 criteria. And it's our task to show how Barnard is meeting each of the criteria and how well. As you will hear from each of our working group co-chairs, our study so far has found that overall Barnard is fulfilling the standards and criteria in substantial measure. Of course, there are areas of strength and areas of improvement, and an important aspect of the self-study is to identify these and to make recommendations for strengthening the institution going forward. Just to flesh out for you each of these standards, the criteria under standard 1 ask the institution to examine both how clearly it defines its mission and goals, and how well it uses those stated goals in its planning and its assessment. Standard 2 looks at institutional policies and practices, as well as the extent to which the institution, and I'm quoting here from criterion 2, fosters this climate of respect among students, faculty, staff, and administration from a range of diverse backgrounds, ideas, and perspectives, unquote. Standard 3 asks us to examine our curriculum, both our general education program and the structure of our majors. Standard 4 examines the extent to which we ensure that students are provided with the tools they need to succeed, whether financially, personally, or academically. Standard 5 looks at how well we are assessing student learning and supporting faculty teaching. Standard 6 asks us to look at the extent to which our resource allocation is adequate and aligned to mission and goals. And finally, Standard 7 requires a review of our governance structures. So in addition to showing how an institution meets these standards, Middle States also requires that institutions identify a set of institutional priorities that flow from its strategic planning. Barnard went through this exercise in academic year 2019-2020 and identified the following 4 priorities that relate broadly to President Byelock's 4 strategic pillars. They are, and starting kind of at the top left there, realizing academic excellence, supporting student success, fostering an inclusive community, and managing financial and infrastructure challenges and opportunities in New York City. Institutions must clearly show how the standards and the institutional priorities relate to each other. And there are 2 permissible ways to do that. One is to organize the self-study by standard and then link them to institutional priorities, or organize the study by institutional priority and then link those to the standards. We have chosen to take this latter approach since it allows us to better frame our self-study as a narrative about Barnard, rather than a report that really just checks off the boxes of the standards. This does mean, though, that we need to be very explicit in the study about how our priorities meet the specific standards and criteria. As you can see here, we've mapped our institutional priorities to the standards in the following way. Priority 1 will show how Barnard is meeting standards 1, 3, and 5. Priority 2 will show how Barnard is meeting standards 4 and 5. Priority 3 will show how Barnard is meeting standards 2 and 7. And priority 4 will show how Barnard is meeting standards 6. Now, of course, there is considerable overlap between the standards and priorities, but the organizational structure attenuates the connections as described here. Since we've opted for the institutional priorities approach, we've organized our working groups around the 4 priorities. So before we turn things over to the co-chairs of the 4 working groups, I just wanted to acknowledge the great work that the co-chairs and all the members of the working groups have put into researching their areas and developing the draft of their chapters for the self-study. We really appreciate the commitment throughout the process, even with the challenges of the pandemic. And we've noted the members of the working groups in the slides to come in order to sort of recognize their work and their contributions.